All right, Salakia, y'all. I like to start this off by saying, "Call halal Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai." I made a mistake and hit the button again, just trying to see if it was recording. My camera was tripping. But I'm going to go ahead and do another little 30 minutes to this lesson. I'll try to round it off at about an hour. Okay. But we were just covering the Willie Lynch letter, and we're going to go a little bit more into it. Okay, it's still recording. But hopefully my desktop is still being captured. Yeah, because it's saying my camera's not available, so it's tripping. Either way. But this part of the letter is called Cardinal Principles for Making a Negro. Now, we must understand that the words Negro and nigger are the same. All right. Hold on, we're going to look this up real quick. Acts 15 and 1. So this is Acts 13 and 1. Now there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simeon, that was called Nigger, and Lucius of Cyrene, and Manaen, which had been brought up with Herod the Tetrarch and Saul. So let's bring this to better. Let's go ahead and look this up real quick.
Strong's G 3526. Niger.
You'll have a lot of Christians try to say that says Niger. Right? That's why, again, it's very important to not take things at face value and do, a little bit of diligence and look things up. But we see this in the Strong's Dictionary at G3526. The reason why I brought that up is because nigger means black. What does Negro mean? Mid 16th century via Spanish and Portuguese, from Latin, nigger, black. So there is no difference between being called a Negro or a nigger. It's all the same. And when we look at the Willie Lynch paper, we see that the header here, Cardinal Principles for Making a Negro. For fear that our future generations may not understand the principles of breaking both horse and man, we lay down the art. What is an art? All right. Let's look that up. An art is the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination. So literally the application of Esau's human creative skill and imagination is something like the Willie Lynch letter. I mean, it denotes who they are as a people, the worst of the heathen. Typically in a visual form such as painting or sculpture, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. Right? The various branches of creative activity, such as painting, music, literature, and dance. So the breaking of a so-called Negro, right? Because even the northern tribes were called Negroes. The breaking of a Negro is literally an art form to them. This is the wickedness that our people deny exists every day. But going on, for if we are to sustain our basic economy, we must break and tie both of the beasts together. I'm gonna start saying Negro, right? The Negro and the horse. We understand that short-range planning in economics results in periodic chaos, so that to avoid turmoil in the economy, it requires us to have breadth and depth and long-range comprehensive planning, articulation, both skills and sharp perception. We lay down the following principles for long-range comprehensive economic planning. Like, notice the vernacular here. They are going in depth. This is granular, right? Granular, resembling or consisting of small grains or particles, or characterized by a high level of granularity, right? So a high level of distinction. The vernacular that they're using here denotes a long thought out process. This person has literally broken down the foundational tenets to establish the art form of creating slaves. So both horse and Negro are no good to the economy in the wild or natural state. One of the things, Salakia, one of the things in the Old Testament, especially in the book of Exodus, you read about not hating your own people. You read about how to conduct yourself with your own people, how to conduct business, how to resolve conflicts. These are all things that we used to do with the principles of the Bible. This was our so-called natural state. See, they compared and still compare our proclivity to keep the laws of God to the actions of animals. And that's why they intend to train us and break us literally like horses. Note the animal that's being used to juxtapose a so-called Negro is a horse. A horse does not just let you ride it. A horse will literally buck and injure you and throw you off its back. A lot of folks don't, understand when you get thrown off a horse, that can literally kill you. People die that way. And horses are not naturally inclined to let you get near them, to touch them, to ride them. They have to be broken. And that's what they intend to do to us in order to what basically get more production, as this letter says, out of us, to siphon more resources. Both must be broken and tied together for orderly production. For the orderly futures, special and particular attention must be paid to the female and young offspring. Any Israelite male knows what's going on in Esau society in relation to how we are dealt with. We are dealt with very harshly. We're often denied jobs. We're often, put in positions where there is no winning answer. You're damned if you work. Like, I myself personally created an entire help desk from scratch, writing their analytics, everything from scratch for below market pay, and I still was the first one asked from the project after creating everything for them. And who would they bring in if they had to satisfy a diversity quota? It would be a female. A female, whether they be a black female, a Hispanic female, but either way, they would satisfy that diversity quota by utilizing our sisters. That's what they do to us. And that is literally part of the plan. That's part of the Willie Lynch letter. They also focus on the offspring. I personally don't have any children, but I've heard about some of the horror stories that happens in family and custody court. The amount of child support some of our people are paying, some of our men, it's literally criminal. But note that that is part of the plan for destroying the household, for creating a slave. Both must be crossbred. Note the term crossbred. You breed animals. That's the mental position that our oppressor has of us. Both must be crossbred to produce a variety and division of labor. So what they're saying here is we literally need to be bred in certain ways to produce certain types of people for different forms of work. That's why one of the things that they would do during the worst of slavery, when we were on sex farms, they would put hoods over our heads, and they would pair you up. Sometimes son and mother, sometimes father and daughter, all types of sick arrangements to produce different types of slaves for different forms of work. Both must be taught to respond to a particular new language. So note, It's already been decided here that your language is part of what makes you a whole person, because taking it is part of the process of breaking that person. Psychological and physical instruction of containment must be created for both. So note it says psychological, that's dealing with your mind, right? Your psyche. And then your physical. So now you're talking about constraining the body, determining the factors surrounding a person's exterior environment, right? Whether you're in an apartment, a large spacious house, or in a 6 by 10 cell with a bunkmate and a toilet that you literally sleep next to. This is all part of the breaking of a so-called Negro and producing a slave. Salakia, yo. Got a slight cough. But just going into more of this letter, I want to get some of the violence that they would use, because it basically touches on everything. And note this says, let's make a slave. All right. Now, this I do want to read here, right? Because it talks about how they work through the female to essentially break the male. So, wow. So, and this is part of the let's make a slave. Accordingly, both a wild horse and a wild or natural Negro is dangerous, even if captured, for they will have a tendency to seek their customary freedom. How dare you not want to be a slave? And in doing so, might kill you in your sleep. You cannot rest. So the murderous intent that they have toward us is displaced onto us. So just by proxy, by them being around us, they're put on the defensive, because we're just a wild beast that's prone to just trying to kill them, trying to conduct violence or steal from them. That's why when you go by their car door, if you're walking by somebody who's parked and they're an Edomite, they lock their door. This is part of where all this comes from, because just as we're conditioned to think a certain way, act a certain way, or be a certain way, they are as well. They condition their people, and this is part of the conditioning that they exercise on their own people. See, this is something we have to understand. We're not the only ones inheriting lies. They are too. This is Jeremiah 16 and 19. O Lord, my strength and my fortress, and my refuge in the day of affliction. The Gentiles shall come unto thee from the ends of the earth, and shall say, surely our fathers have inherited lies, vanity, and things wherein there is no profit. See, this is going to be the Gentiles, literally admitting that they've been lied to. See, that's one of the things that we have to understand as a people, right? They're wicked for many reasons. Can you stop, buddy? Sorry, my dog is kicking the remote. But they're wicked for many reasons. But one of the reasons is that they're taught, and they're taught from the crib. Psalms 58 and 3. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. See? And it even goes on to say in verse 4, their poison is like the poison of a serpent. That poison being things like the Willie Lynch letter. This is poison of the mind. This could warp somebody for their entire life to form like a hatred, like a bond that is literally made from murderous intent to profit from the exploitation of those people. And this is the framework for that. But our people do not understand the depths and of the depravity that Esau is willing to go to and through in order to ensure that their children are willing to do all these things. That's why the Bible says the wicked are estranged from the womb. They teach them literally from the crib. There was a video that went viral a number of years ago. It's only been about 2 or 3 years, but a mother is Salakia. A mother is asking her daughter if she ate some type of like cookie or a snack, and her daughter literally says the black man did it. A black man stole it. Where would a small child learn to say that, even if it's in jest? Well, from the parents. That's why, again, the Bible says it quite plainly. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies, because they're literally taught doctrine. But let's go on a little bit, right? So accordingly, both a wild horse and a wild or natural Negro is dangerous even if captured, for they will have a tendency to seek their customary freedom, and in doing so might kill you in your sleep. You cannot rest. They sleep while you are awake and are awake while you are asleep. They are dangerous near the family house, and it requires too much labor to watch them away from the house. So notice, Esau has psychologically tied himself to us in ways that we don't even acknowledge. What I mean by that, one of the things that we see with our people when we congregate is that we enjoy one another. We have hobbies and things that we like to do as a unit, even if it's observing one another doing it, like going to a sports, arena, like a, football game, basketball game, watching a boxing event. We have talents that we can basically enjoy from one to another. But Esau, his entire existence is dependent on us. When we're not in view shot, he wonders what we're doing. He wants to have a camera in every home, an open mic or a hot mic in every room. When you look at things like COINTELPRO, that's how something like that can be created. What is COINTELPRO? Or COINTELPRO, but it's COINTELPRO, right? So, was a series of covert and illegal projects conducted by the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation, so the FBI, aimed at surveilling, infiltrating, discrediting, and disrupting domestic American political organizations. Now, note it doesn't say of whom, right? That was for our people. But why would they have a governmental program that went to this extent? Well, it says so right here in the Willie Lynch letter. It talks about their paranoia of us. Our very existence inspires them to do nothing but speak of us and think of us all damn day. And as a result, this is the type of doctrine that they give to their children, that they pass on mind to mind, parent to child, one to another. One of the things that we don't quite understand is when we see those little viral videos of people, dropping the M-bomb in their house, like that judge who basically got disbarred, or I don't know if she stepped down or she got disbarred, but she was caught on film repetitiously mocking a so-called black man, and calling him the N-word. And her entire family is in the room, jovially joining in on it. But there wasn't a person of color in her entire house. No Israelites in sight. But the reason why that hatred is there is because of this type of doctrine. And she was a judge. So now every case that she basically, oversaw as a judge, every Israelite has the grounds now to have their case reviewed and potentially thrown out. But that's only because she became too public. And that's it. All of them have this doctrine. This is something our people just do not understand. But because they don't understand, they're going to endure the same judgments as their oppressor. Proverbs 11:21, though hand join in hand, the wicked shall not be unpunished, but the seed of the righteous shall be delivered. So the righteous are going to be those who keep the commandments, who are a separate people unto the Most High God, who never trust their enemy, as it says in the book of Sirach, Sirach 12 and 16, right? Those of us who keep the commandments in the righteous wisdom of the Bible, we're going to be delivered. But those who are ignorant enough to coon and conjoin themselves unto the white man, they are not going to be unpunished because you want to forgive them and move forward. The Most High is going to punish you along with them. This is Revelation 18 and 4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. So again, our people don't understand the evil that they've conjoined themselves unto, the judgment that's going to be rendered on Esau. And if you are conjoined onto them, you're going to receive of that judgment, those plagues. How much time? Yeah, we got about 9 minutes. Cool. Let's look in the Bible and see some of because I think we covered enough in the Willie Lynch letter, right? Because it's to the point where there's so much here that I could bring out, but I know there's so much that YouTube is going to ban me for, right? I'll be honest, I don't even know if this video is going to be able to stay up, but I'm going to put it up anyway. But just going into how they would beat us. Literally, look at this. The next step is to take a bullwhip and beat the remaining Negro male to the point of death in front of the female and infant. So basically beat him almost to death in front of his wife and kids. The psychological damage that does changes the dynamics of your household. One of the things that I try to bring out is that how the male in Israel is broken. Fundamentally, he's broken. And not just the individual himself. His entire family structure is broken. The way his woman sees him is broken. We're not seen as a hero that could potentially liberate us from our oppression and position. Right? We're viewed as this. I'm going to say it the way it is. A nigger male to the point of death. That's how our females view us. I've heard that Israelite women, some of our wayward sisters, have referred to Israelite men from the tribe of Judah as bullet bags. Literally, but in her eyes, she literally saw us at the point of death with the intention to break her psychologically so that she can't see us as her mate, as her man, as the chosen of the living God. She can't see that. That's why when we're telling many of our sisters, attempting to get their attention and tell them about the truth, that's why they can't latch on to it, because in her eyes, this is what we look like. And the sad part is some of our sisters psychologically still try to seek after that individual, that type of man, the man put to the point of death. That's why Jesus in the white church is so popular, because he's a Negro male to the point of death, hanging on the cross. See, T.D. Jakes and all these pulpit pimps are willing to admit that Christ is black. That's not a hard admission because it still adheres to the doctrine of the Willie Lynch letters. Don't kill him, but put the fear of God in him, for he can be useful for future breeding. That's what they think of us. That's what we're up against. And that's why the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, right? Salakia, y'all. This is 2 Corinthians 10 and 3. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. This in and of itself doesn't kill anybody, right? This framework of thinking doesn't kill anybody, but the resulting actions that are taken as a result of being indoctrinated into this propaganda results in many deaths, hundreds of millions, in fact. That's why the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. That's why this truth is cutting Esau so deep, right? That's why the Bible is sharper and quicker than any two-edged sword. Because telling the truth about who the Edomites is, or who they are, and what their punishment and judgment will be, is detrimental to them on a scale that is going to literally eradicate them from existence. I always like to get it because a lot of our people can't believe that a race of people will literally be eliminated from existence. But because of what they've done to us, I bring it out all the time. 250 million of our people were murdered. And that was just to take this land and get it going. We're not even talking about the millions of our people that they've murdered in secret, that they've murdered all around the world, that they murder at the present day and in recent years. We're just talking about the 250 million people that they murdered in mass to get set up to take this land. But because of that, this is what has to happen. This is Obadiah 1 and 18. And the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble, and they shall kindle in them and devour them. And there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for the Most High God hath spoken. When you look at the Willie Lynch letter and you see what's being indoctrinated into other slave masters to be passed on to their children, with the expectation that it will break us for 300 years, when you see this tool that is not carnal, it's not physical, you truly begin to understand that the weapons that we have to employ to defend against this are going to be spiritual weapons. And keeping the laws of God are very spiritual weapons. And it produces tangible changes as a result of things that you do and don't do, foods that you eat and don't eat, practices that you keep, healthy things like fasting, exercise, not imbibing too many sweets or alcohol. Things like that are all in the Bible. But if you can break a person and replace all those tenets and principles with things that will ultimately result in them killing themselves slowly over time, weakening you, and putting you in a much lower place of subjection. Sorry, Salakia, my mouth is dry. But subjection and oppression to your captor. I mean, literally, we're looking at the formula for doing that right here. Let me tidy up real quick. All right. How much time we got? We got about a minute. Okay, cool. But we see here in the book of Esther that Esau has tried to do away with us entirely before. Esau literally tries to destroy our people when he ain't even in charge. Whole nother nation could be in charge. And he's appealing to the leadership that they move against us. We're going to see that here in the book of Esther, right? So we have an individual by the name of Haman. And during the time of King Ahasuerus, Haman and Mordecai being an Israelite, they were high-ranking officials in his kingdom. And Haman got promoted to the point where he was right up under the king. He was the king's right-hand man, and anything that he advised the king to do, he would consider it and almost guaranteed to make good on it. Because you got to understand, you don't appoint somebody to being your right hand if they don't already have a rapport with you. And having that, Haman certainly intended to use it. This is Esther 3 and 8. And Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, there is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of thy kingdom, and their laws are diverse from all people. Neither keep they the king's laws. Therefore, it is not for the king's profit to suffer them. Right? So what he's saying here It's like, man, there's some people in your nation, and they're separate unto themselves, and they keep their own laws. They don't listen to you, and it's not going to be profitable for you to keep these people because you can't trust them. They're playing by their own rules, right? So he goes on to propose something. Verse 9: If it please the king, let it be written that they may be destroyed. What? That they may be destroyed. And what was one of the curses that we would be put up under? This is Deuteronomy 28 and 45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed. Now, in this instance, Haman wanted to have us wiped out from existence, like physically, right? He wanted to have us killed. But are we not destroyed now? Because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Most High thy God, because we don't keep the commandments. That's why all this is happening. That's why the Willie Lynch letter even exists. And its principles have been put into action to the extent that they have. It's all because we haven't kept the commandments. To keep his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded thee. Because we didn't listen to the voice of the Most High God, because we didn't keep his commandments. That's why all this is happening. Right? And actually, 1 second. We're going to go back to Esther. So in verse 9, he's proposing that the king destroy our people, eliminate them and kill them, basically because we were a separate people unto ourselves, because we're a separate portion for the Most High God. Now, keep in mind that paranoia that we saw in the Willie Lynch letter, the fact that it said that we're awake when they're asleep and asleep when they're awake, that we're prone to fits of violence and rage against them for no provocation at all. That's what inspires Esau to pursue us. That hatred because of the blessing, that obsession with Jacob and his descendants. That's why we see instances throughout the Bible of the Edomites constantly warring with the Israelites, conspiring against the Israelites, working with other nations, even when they're in a position of subservience. They still operate against us. If they rise to any, respectable position of authority, they use that power against us. And we see that here. Verse 9: If it please the king, let it be written that they may be destroyed, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the hands of those that have the charge of the business, to bring it into the king's treasuries. And the king took his ring from his hand and gave it unto Haman the son of Hammedatha the Agagite. Note, the Agagites are the Amalekites. King Agag was an Amalekite, and the Agagites are those who are his descendants. But and also that's who Amalek is in Israel today, right? Those who are, claiming to be the Yahudi, right, and are not, as per Revelations 2 and 9. But we see here that Haman is concocting a plan, and he's proposing it to the king to have us destroyed because we're simply a separate people, and we can't be trusted, according to what he's telling King Ahasuerus. Verse 10: And the king took his ring from his hand and gave it unto Haman the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, the Jews' enemy. So it's always been known that the Agagites, or the Amalekites, were enemies of our people. Going on, and the king said unto Haman, The silver is given to thee, and the people also, to do with them as it seemeth good to thee. So basically, the king at the time was like, yeah, go do that. Now, of course, through, the Most High God and his mercy, Esther and Mordecai were able to turn the machinations of Haman back on himself, and he ended up hanged along with his sons. But we see an example of Esau using that hatred toward the Israelites. But y'all, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. I just wanted to, go ahead and say again, call halal Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. For those of y'all who watch my videos, I'm gonna be putting up a new camp video, probably tomorrow or probably tomorrow night, somewhere in there. Hopefully, I'm not coughing as much next time. I'm trying to shake this cough. But all praises be unto the Most High God, Kwam Yasharala, and yeah. All right, Shalom, y'all.